This is Arn Anderson, and you are watching me on Sportskeeda Wrestling.
To say that the man I'll be chatting with is the greatest tag team wrestler in the history of the business would not be exaggeration. It would not be hyperbole. In addition to everything he's achieved in the ring, Arn Anderson was also one of the most important backstage personnel and road agents in the history of WWE. And now he's embarked on a brand new career, a new chapter of his career in All Elite Wrestling with the Nightmare family. Please say hello to Arn Anderson. Remember, everybody, listen to who Arn Anderson selects as his favorites from the year gone by, and then you get to vote yourself. Pick your own nominations, name your own nominations, and click on the link shared below in the description. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, sir. It's in the very, very late where you are, correct? 3 in the morning?
It is 3 in the morning.
What a
But it's definitely worth it.
You're a devoted businessman, that's for sure.
Yeah, and a big fan of yours. I mean, I must tell you before we begin that growing up, probably the loudest pop that I've heard in my life was when the Horsemen reunited with Benoit and Malenko and Mongo, McMichael, and you and Flair in the same ring. My TV, I remember at that time, we had a very small TV set, which it actually started shaking. So,
really? Wow.
That's
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a very big night, Greenville, South Carolina. Great town to do it in. Huge Horseman fans. That's something I'll never forget for sure.
Amazing, amazing. So before we start with the interview, I want to ask you that you have worked under Jim Crockett and Jim Herd and Vince McMahon, obviously, and Eric Bischoff, obviously. How does Tony Khan compare to all of these gentlemen?
I sing Tony's praises all the time to anybody that will listen, and it's not just because he's my boss. It's because the kind of man he is, the kind of human he is, and the kind of wrestling boss he is. You know, if the fans haven't figured it out, and I'm pretty sure they have by now, he listens. He asks questions. What do you want to see? Who do you want to see? What do you want AEW programming to be? Versus guys in the past, it says, here's what we're putting on television. Here's our product. Take it or leave it. This is what we're giving you. And when you have someone that understands wrestling fans like that and actually is concerned and more so wants to produce a product that they're going to enjoy, that they can call their own, that's who Tony Khan is.
Amazing. And you have seen the backstage atmosphere in WWE. You were there for so many years. How would you say the AEW locker room compares to the WWE locker room?
Well, it's on the talent with AEW to produce who you are, what you are, show the world, you know, what wrestler X or female wrestler, you know, X is, and that's who, you know, the onus is on you. More so with WWE, it's a very, very, very micromanaged, hands-on, here's the script, here's what you go by, here's what you say. And I think when you have something that micromanaged, especially on promos, you never get to hear who the real person is. You just get someone that's studied for a test and now I'm going to recite it to you. And I think that's harmful to the talent in the long run.
Do you think, and like you mentioned WCW Nitro, that was a time when like two promotions were going head to head, much like it is right now. Do you think there is a chance where we could have 83 weeks just like Nitro did, where AEW eventually overcomes WWE?
I don't know if that will ever happen again because it was a different time. You had a lot of talent with those two companies who were seasoned, who were veterans, who had been around, had 10, 12, 15 years under their belt. And it's easy to change things on the fly, do live television, go up. Okay, you had 10 minutes, now you got 2.5. We got to restructure this and not have guys panic. Today, we have a few veterans in the locker room and mostly young guys and ladies. And it's hard for them because they don't have enough tools on their tool belt yet, as far as having experience to be able to pull that off. So if it happens down the road, who knows? I don't think we'll see that anytime soon. Yeah, this is Arn Anderson. Like, subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling.
All right. With that said, let's just dive into the categories. The first category that I'm going to bring up is Male Wrestler of the Year. And I'm going to name all the nominations right now. You have Roman Reigns from WWE. You have Big E from WWE. You have Bryan Danielson, who main evented WrestleMania, came to AEW and took over the world with AEW. You have CM Punk, who returned to AEW after a long hiatus. And you have Kenny Omega, who produced one great match after another. So who would you say was the Wrestler of the Year 2021 male?
Well, I tell you, I like everybody in that category. I'm glad Roman finally got to be Roman. I wasn't around Kenny Omega enough previously when I was never anywhere that he was to be able to judge him, but I see his creativity and I see how, having wrestled around the world in probably 1,000 different companies, what he brings to the table. Punk coming back was huge for the company, but I got to go with Bryan Danielson. He was said to be too small, too vanilla, to this, to that, to all the naysayers years ago. And I knew watching him perform, all he had to have was a chance. And man, here just when he wrestled the champion here just a few weeks back, and they wrestled for an hour. You know how many people in the world could do that? Maybe 5 guys. And keep it interesting and keep it intense and keep the story up there, keep the physicality up there. So this year he gets my vote.
Amazing. So one of your old friends, Jim Cornette, has been kind of critical about how the male, not just male, all the wrestlers right now, they do a little too much. Do you agree with this assessment?
I do agree with it. But I understand why too. You got to remember, this was a group of guys. AEW was formed out of mostly, not completely, but mostly of a group of guys that couldn't get hired with WCW or WWE. It was just, no thanks, you're not enough of this. They've been told you're not enough of that. You're not tall enough. You're not big enough. You're too tall. You're too big. All the things that kept them out of the 2 main companies. Now they were going to have their own company and have an opportunity to prove themselves. That is part of the reason that you see them willing to put their bodies on the line to go out there and do some of these insane things athletically that they are able to do. And that doesn't necessarily mean they should do it. But when you have something that a guy can do that hasn't been seen or is very, very holy moment, excuse my language, but that's what they're going to do because they're trying to prove themselves to the world. I do agree with Jimmy, and I worry about the talent themselves. I worry about them getting critically injured on some of this stuff because, hey, let's face it, when you launch yourself into the air, there's not much you can do after that other than accept how you land. You can't adjust in the air. If you can, you should be a superhero and not a wrestler. So, a lot of them just throw caution to the wind and go for it, and however they land, they land. But I do agree with Jimmy. There's a lot of kids doing things that they don't have to. They're too athletically gifted to have to do some of this stuff.
Amazing. Let's just go right into the next category, which is Female Wrestler of the Year. We have Becky Lynch, we have Sasha Banks, we have Bianca Belair, we have Dr. Britt Baker, and we have our first nomination from Impact Wrestling, which is Mickie James. Who would you say was the female wrestler of the year?
Well, I gotta tell you, I was around Britt Baker very much, if at all, before I came to work here. I didn't know anything about her. And I based her, not that she was our champion, but just on her talent. And apparently she's been somewhere wrestling a lot of time on a lot of different matches with a lot of different opponents, because she's pretty well-rounded. I'm a huge fan of Becky. I'm a huge fan of Sasha. Everyone in that category, Mickie James, they're all tremendous talents. But young, fresh, new, and hey, a legitimate dentist. I mean, how many people do you see that go through all the effort to get to be a certified dentist and then change careers? I guess she figured she got her teeth knocked out, she could just put them back in herself or something. I don't know. But I think she's going to get my vote this year. She's on a roll. Good for her.
What do you think about her chemistry with your old friend Tony Schiavone and the kind of mini storyline that they have going on?
Tony's a puppy dog. He's love struck. That's what I think. She leads him around by the nose.
Amazing, amazing.
He's already got a wife to do that. Lois does that when he's at home. Why would he have one to do? He's got a road wife that leads him around at work. Come on. You see a glutton for glutton for punishment? That's to you, Tony.
Amazing, amazing. So the next category, we just spoke about Ric Flair's big comeback during the Nitro years. Let's talk about the best comeback of the year 2021. We have CM Punk's comeback. We have Becky Lynch returning as a mother to become the women's champion. We have Brock Lesnar returning as a babyface. We have Christian Cage, who was told he'll never wrestle again, who comes back to AEW, becomes the Impact champion and does everything else. And we have W. Morrissey from Impact Wrestling, formerly Big Cass, who, he took a hiatus from the business and who's back again. So who would you say wins the comeback of the year?
No question, CM Punk. Chicago, Illinois. If you were going to write a Hollywood script, you couldn't write it any better than that. That's his hometown. You know, he has always been a huge draw there, and the mood was set, and it was one of those moments that I was very honored to have been in the building and felt it firsthand.
Having been a part of so many great pops yourself, where would you say that pop rank in history?
I would say it's up there at the top. I don't know of anything. And I say this because there's been bigger audiences, honestly, WrestleMania. You know, I'm one of those guys. Okay, I'll go ahead and say it. I'll take credit for Spinebuster and The Undertaker. To me, that was the biggest pop I had ever felt because I was in the ring and got to feel it from a talent perspective. But sitting in the back and looking through the curtain and watching everybody in that building in Chicago, however many that was that night, every single one of them was on the same page. It was CM Punk, CM Punk, CM Punk. And that's what I go by. There wasn't 15 people over here sitting down and 10 people over here with a snarl on their face. Everybody was smiling. Everybody was on their feet. And it was a moment in time.
Did you ever imagine when you saw him, when he took his time away from the business, that he would be back in such a big way?
I knew he would be. I didn't know when. You know, guys that really love the business and appreciate the business and love being a wrestler. You know, it's not about, it goes beyond getting a good seat at a restaurant and how much money you made last year and the notoriety that you have and all the perks of being on television every week. The guys that really love the wrestling part of it, the bell to bell part of what we do, always have the same end game. I'd like to walk away from the business, not limp, not be in a wheelchair, and do it on my own terms. And he had that opportunity. I knew he was going to jump on it.
Amazing, amazing. My final category is who cut the best promos in the year 2021? Was it again CM Punk? Was it Paul Heyman? Was it Britt Baker? Was it MJF? Or was it another man who made one of those legendary comebacks, Edge, who was told he would never wrestle again and he came back and he's cutting the best promos of his life? Who would you say cut the best promos in the year 2021?
Arn Anderson Glock promo, hands down.
Agreed.
No, that was one of those couple of week deals that flamed up. MJF, he's so comfortable in his own skin. You know, I didn't think I would ever meet a bigger asshole than myself. I have, and he is, you know, he's intelligent, he's articulate, he's paid some dues. You know, he's a guy that doesn't mind sticking his chin out there and saying, go ahead and take a swing. Hands down, MJF.
So we mentioned Jim Cornette earlier on. Would you say that he is at the same level as someone like Jim Cornette when it comes to being a heel and cutting the same kind of promos?
At this stage of his career, I think he is. You know, you have to be fair when you start to compare him to other people, because Jim Cornette was always, you know, like all of us, you couldn't cuss on television. There was only so far you could go with your insinuations on television. You know, the gloves are off these days, and you have a much wider parameter that is allowed to be on TV. So I guess what I'm saying is you compare orange to apples instead of apples to apples. And, you know, Jimmy continues to be one of those controversial guys that tells the truth as he sees it. And that's what America's all about. And that's what I like about Jimmy. Now, does Jimmy go so far sometimes to where you go, whoa, okay? Yes. MJF has went so far. I've actually got up in the room I was in and went and locked the door and cut the lights out. He horrified me so bad, I didn't want anybody to think I was involved with him, even working in the same company. That cat, whew. But again, it's comparing oranges to apples, and you know, the parameters that we used to be under no longer are there.
Amazing, amazing. So you have heard all of Arn Anderson's picks. You can vote for your favorite stars as well. Just go to the link in the description. Thank you so much for your time. And before we conclude this interview, please tell us everything you are doing with our partners, Conrad Thompson and 83 Weeks.
Me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're having a blast. The Arn Show is on. Conrad is my co-host. We drop every Saturday morning at 6:05, and we're basically going back, and which is different, I think, than every other podcast out there. We're walking through on a weekly basis my career, the matches that I had, the angles I was involved with, my entire career, and we're like up to 1987 right now. So if you want to hear the travel stories and the backstage stories and the things other than what you saw on television, that's the place to hear about it. So Conrad's a great co-host. He brings up a lot of information, and it has some guys really dig up some stuff that I'd even forgot about that we're reliving. So like for everyone to give it a listen and see what you think, and go to our Twitter account and have all the suggestions you want. We'll do our best to, like I said, be fan friendly.
Amazing. And before we let you go, I have to ask you this. What do you think of the kind of reception that Cody Rhodes and Brandi are receiving? They are not heels on television, but they have been receiving a very negative response from the audience. Yes.
Well, all Cody does is go out there, be handsome, be in good shape, do some incredible stuff, take a diamond cutter off the top of a ladder. He does everything you can possibly do to endear yourself to the family or to the audience. I guess I better call them. They are our family, but he does everything he can do to try to endear himself, and they boo the crap out of him. I've tried to figure it out. I don't know. If anybody has the answer, please let me know so I can slap it into him, because I've tried everything.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch you.
Thank you.